All right, let's get this prep spotlight going. As always, the prep spotlight is brought to you by Jacobs Insurance. If you have any questions or needs for insurance, head over to the great people at Jacobs Insurance and they'll take care of you. But this week we've got Jason Hutton on again. He's been on 3 Point Podcast a number of times now. But this is a big weekend, obviously, state championship weekend coming up after the holiday. And this is a big time of year, right, for you guys, especially on the west side. You always have a bunch of teams to cover, it seems like.
Always, yeah. We got 4 this year, which is actually maybe a little less than we've had in the past, but always fun. I'll be honest with you guys. I don't know what to do on Friday. I've never had the day after Thanksgiving off. And this year I'm really not sure what to do with myself on the day after Thanksgiving because I'm used to being at Ford Field, but it'll be Saturday, Sunday this year.
You watch that Michigan State Penn State game at Ford Field, right?
Oh man, what a game that's going to be! How exciting!
Yeah. So yeah, obviously you know what we're going to touch on first. We'll get to some of the other teams that you guys are covering over there, but Grand Rapids Catholic Central will be teeing up against our Corunna Cavaliers, who beat Flat Rock this past Saturday. Running clock again in the second half for Corunna. I mean, they've been steamrolling teams, obviously, all season. It's been an awesome run for the Cavaliers. That being said, they're going up against one of the best programs in the state in any division in Grand Rapids Catholic Central. 5 out of the last 7 years, they've won a state championship, 11 total state championships. So, I mean, this is one of the premier programs in the state, not just in the Division 5. Break it down for us for our listeners, Corunna fans, or just fans of the state championship weekend. What is Corunna up against when they see the Cougars of Grand Rapids Catholic Central this year's team?
Yeah, this is a really good team, a really good Grand Rapids Catholic Central team, and that's saying something because the bar is so high for that program because of all the things you just said, Matt. I mean, they are year in and year out. They're really good, and this is a really good Grand Rapids Catholic Central team. They have a quarterback in Connor Wolf, who I really like. I thought he was the player of the game when they beat West Catholic 2 weeks ago, 30-28 in that regional final. He's a senior. 2 years ago when they had Joey Silveri as their quarterback, Joey hurt his knee in the South Christian game in the regular season, and they ended up going with John Passano at quarterback, who was another senior who was outstanding wide receiver, a great athlete, and they played him at quarterback and ended up winning the state championship. But that was a really good Grand Rapids Catholic Central team, and they won a lot of games by a lot of points. So Connor, as a sophomore, got to play a lot of those games, including the state championship game. So he's got lots of varsity experience. Was the starter last year, has been the starter all the way this year. He's throwing the ball really well. I mean, Grand Rapids Catholic Central is an outstanding passing team. That's what they've always been under Todd Colster. They can always throw the football. He's got a lot of great weapons. The offensive line is good and experienced. But really, it's the skill. I mean, we talk about Kellen Russell Dixon, who is their starting running back. He's a 3-year starter at corner. I think he's outstanding. I don't know where he's going to end up in terms of college. I hear some Ivy League schools are looking at him. Certainly the GLIAC, Ferris State wants him badly. Yeah, I think he could play at the MAC personally, but we'll see he's just a really good football player. Yeah. So outside of Kellen Russell Dixon, they're wide receivers. Mill Coleman III is a wide receiver who came in from North Farmington. This is his first year at Catholic Central. His dad is, of course, Mill the Thrill Coleman, who was an outstanding player at Michigan State. And they have Jamie Williams as a wide receiver, a junior number 1, who's really good. They've really been going to him here in this playoff run, who's been outstanding. Austin Baxter is another player as a senior who was a safety for them, moved to linebacker this year, but they play him at wide receiver some too. And that brings me to the defense. That was an area, probably a bigger question for them coming into this season. They didn't return a ton on defense. In fact, Baxter was one of the few, and they moved him from safety to linebacker, so he was playing a new position. That's a thing where with this program, you see them grow and develop throughout the year. Week 1, now sure, they played Loyola Academy out of Chicago, one of the best teams in the country, and they got rolled. But you can see this defense getting better and better every week. Last week, or the semifinal against Frankenmuth, they were outstanding.
They shut them out, right?
They shut them out. Yeah, they held them to 230 yards or something, a total offense. So I see the defense getting a lot better, but offensively, I think Grand Rapids Catholic Central is really, really good, which I think makes for a fascinating matchup because nobody scored against Corunna all year.
Right. This is it really does sort of seem like a classic David versus Goliath matchup, which GRCC almost, what is it, 5 out of the last 7 years? You said, Matt, they've won they've won the state championship. So one game that a lot of Corunna fans especially have been kind of circling is saying, hey, they can be beat. And I think it was kind of eye-opening last year to a lot of people was that semifinal game versus Gladwin where GRCC lost. Take me back to that game, and is there something to be said about that loss that Corunna actually should come into this game fairly confident, thinking they might be able to pull this game off?
I got to believe Corunna is going to be confident based on their body work this year. I mean, they've destroyed everybody. They've played great. I don't think they need to look at that to say, hey, we have a chance. I think they got to believe they have a chance anyways. That'd be my opinion.
Right.
If you want to talk about the Gladwin game from last year, I mean, special teams is an excellent place to try to attack Grand Rapids Catholic Central. Gladwin returned 2 kicks for touchdowns. I mean, I think if you can score in special teams, that's certainly going to give you a chance in a game like that. So this is a very different Grand Rapids Catholic Central team. They were really young last year, especially on the offensive side of the football. But I think that Corunna is plenty confident and plenty capable. I see this as being, as you guys have talked about, one of the best games of the weekend, if not the best game. It's going to be a great matchup.
Yeah, we think it should be a pretty good game for sure. Now, do you think it's going to be a low-scoring game or high-scoring game if you had to just make a prediction?
Yeah, I would probably lean towards lower. It's interesting. I just got done talking about how I think Grand Rapids Catholic Central is better on the offensive side of the ball. Looking at the Frankenmuth stats, I was not at the game Saturday when Catholic Central played Frankenmuth. When you look at the stats, though, Frankenmuth ran 68 plays. Grand Rapids Catholic Central only ran 40. Now, that's a good recipe, right? If you want to try to beat Catholic Central, you want to be on the field more than them. Catholic Central still won the game 35-0. So you have to make sure you're scoring when you're on the field. I just think that Catholic Central's defense is playing a lot better. It seems like Corunna's defense is outstanding. I feel like you get in these situations where you get 2 great offenses like we have here, and everybody says it's going to be a shootout. But what you end up getting is you get 2 offenses that are really good, and maybe they stay on the field. So I don't think there's going to be a bunch of 3-and-outs or possession changes. But what we'll get is probably longer offensive possessions and fewer possessions is my guess. So I would see this game being probably somewhere in the 20s to teens, probably maybe both teams in the 20s-ish, if I had to pick.
Yeah. Coming into that the Frankenmuth game, I looked it up. Frankenmuth was averaging basically like 46 points per game coming into that game against Catholic Central, and then Catholic Central blanked them. So obviously very impressive. So we've talked about the headlines that the offenses get. We've talked about it all year, all the headlines that the Bauer twins and Eddington and the other players on Corunna's offense get, and rightfully so. But the defense, as you talked about too a little earlier, the defense should be getting as much love as the offense, because they've basically been shutting down teams that were putting up points like crazy. Goodrich, Hamady, Notre Dame Prep. I mean, they've handled some teams that previously were putting up a ton of points. So the defense for Catholic Central, if you had to say your opinion, where can Corunna attack Catholic Central's defense? Is it going to be on the ground, or should they air it out? If you had to say like where Corunna should attack Catholic Central's defense, what would you say in your opinion?
I really like Grand Rapids Catholic Central secondary. Russell Dixon at one corner. Mill Coleman had gotten hurt late in the regular season and didn't play for a couple of weeks. Since he's come back, he was the other starting corner. They moved him to safety, and Brock Jones, a junior, who was the starting safety, has been playing corner. And I was surprised when Mill came back that they didn't put Mill back at corner and Brock back at safety, but they liked the way Brock played at corner. And then Mill played really well at safety against West Catholic. So I like the way Catholic Central secondary is playing. I think the better way to attack them would be on the ground. I think especially with the quarterback run would be a play, because that's just so hard to defend, right? But you have to be balanced. I don't think you can just go, hey, we're going to run the 50 times. That's not going to work. And you're not going to go, hey, we're going to throw it 50 times. You're going to have some sort of ability to do both, I think, to be effective. And one thing I'd like to mention, you guys have kind of talked about the Gladwin game and some of this stuff for Catholic Central. It's probably unfair. And when we went out and talked to Catholic Central preseason, I really tried to guard against this. Like last year was not a failure for Grand Rapids Catholic Central, but it feels like it because they didn't get to Ford Field, right? I mean, to get to the state semifinals and win 11 games, I mean, almost anybody in the state would kill to do that. But at Grand Rapids Catholic Central, those kids feel like they failed because they lost in the state semifinal game. Like, they are motivated based on what happened last year to say, hey, we can do this. And I feel like that's a factor with this team.
It's important.
So they're probably to the point with the program where you don't want to be the class that doesn't win a state championship. Like, that's kind of what you're saying. Whereas Corunna's at the point, this is their first trip to Ford Field. I mean, you've covered this sport forever, and you cover it better than anyone in the state. How cool is it? Some stories like that you get on state championship weekend. These teams going for their first ever state title versus teams who've done it basically every year.
I love it. I mean, I was thinking about this, getting ready to talk to you guys tonight. Corunna right now really reminds me of Belding 1994. I was a freshman at Belding that year. That was our first state championship. And we went to the state championship game and played Detroit Country Day, mighty Detroit Country Day. Probably no one giving Belding a chance in that game, right? And we pulled it out 50-41 in one of the greatest state finals ever played. I mean, Belding was down 33-14 at halftime. I remember trying to leave. I was like, let's go home. You know, we're getting beat 33-14. We're playing Country Day. I don't want to stay for the second half. And Belding comes back and wins 50-41. This game really reminds me of that. I'm not saying Corunna's going to win in a crazy game like that. Right. But I'm saying is Corunna kind of feels like Belding to me, and Catholic Central like Country Day. It's wonderful. Yeah. It's what makes it so much fun.
Yeah. Switching gears a little bit, I'm hoping you have some good news for me on this front. So all of us are kind of, Suedo Muskegon fans. They were still run triple option. That's what Corunna ran for the longest time. We know our famous alumni, Tony Anise, was a coach at Muskegon for the longest time. A lot of the scuttlebutt is that they might be running into a bit of a buzzsaw in your kind of boy, Dan Roan, for De La Salle. Come on, they got a chance this week, right? I need them to win this game.
They definitely have a chance. I would say they definitely have a chance. I think this is the best Muskegon team since the 2017 team, which won the state championship. It's hard to bet against Dan Roan. He's so good. He's such a good coach. Right. I'll tell you this, when they played in week 2, now that was a long time ago, right? 12 weeks ago. I mean, Muskegon had the lead late in the third quarter, and they had a bad fourth quarter. De La Salle won the game in the fourth quarter, right? And that's winning time. That's what you got to do. I would say Muskegon, and I know De La Salle has too. Well, I'm not as familiar with De La Salle because I haven't seen them or been close to them. Muskegon has just gotten better every week. That's how they went from 0-2 to the state championship game. So I think they have a chance, but I think that's going to be another great game, and it's really hard to bet against Dan Roan. But I think this is a really good Muskegon team.
Also in the Grand Rapids area, you got South Christian taking on Harper Woods, both 10-3. How about the Sailors this year? Matt loves the Sailors.
Never.
This is a great run by South Christian. I certainly didn't see this coming. I think a lot of people are a little bit surprised. They lost their last 2 games of the regular season. They lost to Grimm's Catholic Central in week 8, which was our game of the week. And then they lost to Wayland in week 9 and then turned around and played Wayland in the first round of the playoffs and played really, really well. They made some changes defensively. They weren't playing everybody both ways during the regular season. It kind of gets to playoff time and start taking some of your better offensive players, playing them at defense. They've been outstanding defensively in this postseason run. They were not good. I'm not sugarcoating it here. They were not good on defense during the regular season. Yeah. And they've been really good on defense in the postseason. And when you do that, it gives you a chance, because when they have Carson Biss and Jake Vermas on offense, I mean, those guys are special. Right. And offensively, South Christian's good. Last year, when South Christian went undefeated for only time in program history they've ever had a 14-0 state championship season, they were outstanding on defense. And they had Jake DeHaan and the crew on offense. Right. They were complete. This year, they just hadn't been as good on defense, but in the playoffs, they have been. I'll say this. I don't know much about Harper Woods, but I was studying them at the start of the playoffs, and they play basically a Division I schedule, right? Yeah. I mean, they played the best of the best. And I think that Harper Woods is going to be tough to beat.
Yeah,
Harper Woods' big stud is Jacob Oden. I mean, he's a Michigan commit. His dad's actually the coach, Rod Oden. And basically they started their kind of program when those two guys kind of came in, whatever it was, 4 or 5 years ago. And they basically said, we built this program to what it is now. That's a really fun matchup. A lot of people have kind of been lesser on Division 4 because of how good Division 5 has been. But I really think for a division that maybe didn't live up to the hype, preseason, I really think it's going to be a really fun championship game. This is kind of a broad question, but we talk about the Division 5 game. There's a lot of hype around that one for sure. In your opinion, is that the number one game of the weekend? What one are you looking forward to the most?
Yeah, I would say it's probably the game I'm looking forward to the most. I'm really looking forward to Muskegon De La Salle. You're asking me pick my favorite kid here.
Right.
I guess I'll say D5. I'm looking forward to it. I love the Muskegon De La Salle matchup too. I'm so fortunate that I don't have to cover the D1 game, so I can just sit there and watch Bryce Underwood play, which is always fun. That'll be fun, although it doesn't seem like anyone has a chance. I mean, Belleville's just killing people. It's kind of crazy, to be honest with you. I couldn't believe what they did to Davison. I mean, I saw Davison. They're legit good, man. to give up 63. I would have never guessed that. So I think Mason Forest Hill Central is going to be really good. I do. I think that's going to be a really good football game. So I'm really looking forward to all of them. Yeah, I mean, Menominee, Lumen Christi kind of seems fun. I mean, Ubley, Whiteford in 8.
Yep. Rematch.
I'm gonna sit there and watch all 8 games. I'll tell you that.
Heck yeah.
It's the best time of the year, that's for sure. I mean, I know you guys know, Ted, you said one time that you guys at the radio station, you guys called 6 out of the 8 games.
6
That's
in
just...
our area. Yeah, we called 6 of the 8. I almost died that weekend.
I was going to say, when you have a weekend like that, Jared's going to be covering every game.
Right.
West Michigan always keeps you guys busy at Fox 17, but it's definitely a great way to like sign off on high school football season. Speaking of signing off on high school football, you've become one of our favorite people to have on the podcast in the Prep Pigskin Preview, and then now coming on the Prep Spotlight. You've announced publicly, so I think it's okay for me to ask this. You're officially leaving the business, right? Maybe give our listeners a little bit. You're stepping away from local news, huh?
I am, yeah. 17 years I've been at Fox 17, so I guess it was a fitting way to go out. It's a tough schedule, right? And I'm getting old, and it's hard to work till midnight every night. It's just too hard. I basically work a second shift schedule, 3 p.m. to midnight, and all the long hours and weekends. I mean, I love it. I love the job, but I have 3 young kids and a wife, and I need to be home a little bit more. And I have this unbelievable opportunity that I'm super excited about to work at Power Strength Training Systems. I mean, they're doing so many great things for athletes in the Grand Rapids area, and a chance to highlight some of the stuff they're doing. I'll still get to be around athletes and athletics and just kind of work a more normal schedule and be home for my family a little bit more. So I'm going to miss many things about my current job in the last 17 years, but I feel like it's the right time for a change.
For sure.
Yeah. Well, we all got a feeling we'll still see you around, definitely around the high school football fields, without a doubt. Before we let you go here, Jason, just, you're winding down here, heading into the new year. Tell our listeners where they can catch up to some of your final stuff.
Yeah, so everything we do, all of our newscasts and everything, we stream our newscasts live at fox17online.com, plus all of our content goes there after it airs as well. And we're very active on social media at Fox 17 Blitz, and I'm at JHut5. Facebook, I never thought Facebook would become what it's become for me. I was never good at Facebook or anything, and Twitter was always my thing. But yeah, Jason Hutton Fox 17 on Facebook has kind of become where people like to get mad at me. So I'll be there. I'll be there if you need me when I don't rank your team or I pick against you. People get in line now. They want me to pick the other team because I get the picks wrong so much.
Oh.
So you guys will be happy when I pick Catholic Central in Division 5. You're sitting pretty.
All right.
And I will think real quick. I do appreciate what you said about your top 10 rankings, where just because teams are eliminated doesn't mean that automatically they're spot in the top 10. You might as well not even do it at that point. Might as well just be a survivor pool of the teams that are left. So I appreciated what you said. I agree with you on your stance.
Some people want to do top 10 and they only want to do top 10 of people still playing. And I've never been that way. Like my top 10 is legit top 10. Like I'll rank West Ottawa if they have a losing record, but they have to play all these OK Red teams. Like I think they would beat some of these Division 4 and 5 teams in the playoffs. I mean, life in Division 1 is difficult. And when you're playing all Division 1 school, like I'm just going to rank the 10 best teams. I'm not taking into account the fact that you only have 300 kids in your school. You know what I mean? I'm just ranking the best 10. People don't like it. Some people don't like it.
That's all good. They're all still watching though. That's number one right there. Hey, we appreciate the time, man. And we'll catch you down the road at Ford Field. Hopefully see you down there.
Yeah, I appreciate it, guys. Thanks for having me on all the time. And even though I won't be in the business, if you ever need me for anything, I'll be here. I'm happy to do it. So thanks for having me.
Sounds good.
Jacobs Insurance Agency has served Shiawassee County and the surrounding areas since 1977. Just like 3 Point Podcasts, we've had 3 generations: Gary Jacobs Sr., Gary Jacobs II, Brian Jacobs, and myself, Noah Jacobs, serving our community with offices in Waterford and Owasso on M21, just west of Home Depot. Stop in or go online to jacobsinsurance.com to get a quote or get your questions answered by our team. Jacobs Insurance is a proud supporter of our local schools and the proud sponsor of the Prep Spotlight. Insure everything, local, independent, and trusted. It's our family working together to protect yours. That's the Jacobs way.
All right, guys, always good to catch up with Jason and see what he's up to. And, we talked some about it. The football finals taking place Saturday and Sunday at Ford Field, but the semifinals just took place, and Jared and I were both there. Matt listened. We talked a little bit about it in the open, but Corunna just completely dominated Flat Rock. It kind of was expected. Corunna was a big favorite going in there, but you just never know. But Jaden Eddington, as he's done throughout the playoffs, led the way. 111 yards, 4 touchdown runs, all in the second quarter. Just a great playoff performer right now. And Corunna's quarterback Wyatt Bauer and Steve Herrick came up with a great call in the first quarter, going for it on 4th down and about 6. Got the touchdown to Tarek, and that really got it off and rolling. They never looked back.
I mean, so you said 4 touchdowns for Jade in this game. He had 5 last week, right?
Yeah.
So just in the last 2 games in the playoffs, 9 touchdowns. I mean,
Not bad.
that's a full season for some running backs, in high school football. So he's definitely seems like he's really taken on carrying the load. But the Bauer's playing great. The whole defense in general. You guys have been saying it all year on the broadcast. The offense gets a lot of the headlines, the newspaper clippings, and all that. But I mean, you can't say anything better. You can't say anything more about the defense. Just completely shutting teams down. And some good offenses. I mean, Flat Rock was a really good offense coming into this game, and Corunna shut them down basically.
Completely.
You notice how Corunna, it's almost like Michigan, where it's like they kill these teams. Other than this past weekend, Michigan didn't look great. Where they kill the teams, and then it's like, oh, they haven't played anybody.
Right.
They keep killing these teams. It's like, I mean, listen, just around the scuttlebutt around the office, this is a really fun week, for at Valley. So it's like scuttlebutt's like, oh, I don't know, how many times think of all these people that put these games on every year. I've seen the kind of the young upstart Corunna, Frankenmuth, whoever going up again, and then GRCC waiting on the other side. How many times did they painted this picture and then GRCC kills that team? It's going to be different this year. I really believe that in my heart of hearts. I hope it's not my Corunna bias, just like perpetuating my brain. I really do think this team has the horses that's going to make this a hell of a game. To win a state championship and to beat a program like Catholic Central, I mean, it's going to take a great game. Probably Corunna's a plus game to win. But I mean, they're going to stick with this team, and it's going to be a really fun game. It's not going to be that GRCC Grand Rapids blowout that a lot of people are accustomed to. I really believe that.
I tend to agree with
it. If people are still, and I understand that, I'm not trying to argue with people. I mean, I get it. But Corunna handled Goodrich, who went pretty deep in the D4 playoffs, and Notre Dame Prep was, a favorite. They were up there as a favorite in D5, and it was close. I know tied at one point in the second half, but then Corunna pulled away. So they do have some noteworthy wins on their resume. But going up against, I mean, it really is like a David and Goliath type of matchup with 11-time state champion Grand Rapids Catholic Central, 5 out of the last 7, and then Corunna with their first ever appearance, at Ford Field. So, hey man, you got to just stick with what you've been doing all year, and and leave it all out there. And there's no reason for Corunna not to believe that they can't win this game.
I can tell you just by knowing these kids, they believe they are going to win this game, and so does Steve Herrick, and that's what you want. The little thing about the injury to Wyatt, now that's the big question mark right now. But he suffered an injury in the second quarter. We didn't even see it. I don't know if you did, Jared. In fact, Casey thought it might have happened when he was holding on one of the extra points, but he hurt his shoulder in the second quarter. About 2 minutes to go with that one long run around the left sideline on the opposite side of the field. We couldn't tell anything. He came back, was after that play, was still in the game, but obviously it was a painful injury. But the initial reports that I've received, he's playing, baby. He told me this is high school broadcasting.
I loved it, man. I really did.
The best part about it
when it happened, I loved it.
Yeah.
So I think what you're referencing is you ran down there and you talked to Wyatt himself during the game.
Yep.
And the funny part, you know what I'm talking about. So anyone who didn't listen to the game, or if you were there, whatever, you guys had just kind of brought up the whole Carissa Thompson thing and kind of the drama that she got into as a sideline reporter this past weekend. We don't need to get into all that, but you guys had just kind of made some jokes about that. And then next thing I know, you're running back up and you're like, you're out of breath and you're like, just talk to Wyatt. His shoulder, you do your little report. I was like, this is amazing. Ted ran down.
No, it really was. It was so simple. And it's funny how like you can't talk to the players. Like, it's funny how you went right up to him. Are you okay?
Yeah.
You can play next week? Yeah, probably. All right. And then right back and did your job.
Hey,
that's how you do it, man. You can tell you've done it for 40 years.
You can't be shy, man, in this business. That's for sure. And I will say this. I mean, he flat out told me too, I'm playing next week. He said it. So,
I mean, you gotta think if his arm isn't falling off, he's going to go out there and at least give it a go. There's no way that you can't, but hopefully everything is good and it doesn't completely affect, his play, but we know too, they've got a loaded roster and they got a bunch of guys who will step up if he can't be 100%. So
absolutely. And and we've talked all year about the offense and the defense. We've talked about Braden Anderjack, the kicker, which is very strong. I mean, now I think he's got 44 touchbacks alone with all the PATs he's had and the field goals. I mean, special teams was huge in that game against Flat Rock. I mean, they really turned the tide and made it to where Corunna just sealed it off. They had a block punt, they had a strip of the ball and a kick return. I mean, all aspects of the game. They're just it's the greatest team I've ever seen at Corunna, without a doubt.
It's amazing. Yeah. Complete team, top to bottom. And I know you guys talk about all the time on the radio. Offensive and defensive line also carry that team. So
so high praise and just get it done. One more to go, guys. That's for sure. In the D6 semifinal, Almont ended Ovid Elsie's Cinderella season 41-25. Our man Trace Tokar finished the season with a solid game, 224 yards passing and a couple of touchdowns. He'll be back for another year next year for Coach Travis Long. So the future looks bright again for Ovid Elsie. But like I told you, little jealous they got to play over there at Grand Blanc. That would have been fun to be in that stadium.
Yeah, it sounds like a nice facility. Obviously, I've never seen it, but there's a bunch of Almont. Hope we would have liked to see Ovid Elsie make it to Ford Field. This is Almont's, I think it's their first appearance. They've never won a state title, but I think I saw it's their first appearance too.
Right.
But there's a number of teams, including Corunna, who are in the state titles going for their first ever state championship.
Right.
Mason is in there.
Yeah. Really cool story.
Really cool story with Mason. Ubley, our friends over at Thumb Tailgater over there on the east side.
Their coach is retiring after this game, a long-time coach.
I think I saw two other ones. Southfield A&T, they're playing Belleville, so good luck there.
Yeah,
and Harper Woods, I think I saw who is in D4. So anyway, I just looked up a bunch of teams going, including Corunna too. A bunch of teams going for their first ever state title. Pretty cool.
Yeah, and I can even just to piggyback up on what you're saying, man. I can kind of like you said, that Harper Woods team. We did a story on them earlier this year. Basically, Rod Oden is their coach, and Jacob Oden is his son. He's their stud. He's going to Michigan actually.
Oh, nice.
Wide receiver, defensive back. Basically, and we were talking to them. Jacob Oden said there really wasn't a program until we came here. Kind of built this program from basically nothing. And they just rebuilt their whole new football field this year. So like a lot of excitement around that team. And they're playing against South Christian, who stud basketball team, won the state title last year in football. Jake Vermas is a really good wide receiver for them, and a really hell of a basketball player too. Same thing with Carson V's, who's their quarterback who got hurt. And maybe Hutton can expound about that more in basketball, but he was their best basketball player, got hurt. So he's going to look for a little bit of revenge and get a title in a different sport for football. Probably we're looking to do the same thing in basketball too. And then De La Salle and Muskegon in Division III. I mean, two powerhouse programs there every year. I mean, Muskegon only have won one state title out of their last 7 trips to Ford Field. So just looking to kind of change the mojo there. We talk about Mason and Forest Hill Central. I think Mason's going to be the favorite in that game. Yeah. Lansing, Mid-Michigan, like we talked about, Ted, your swan song. They put it together for you this year, man.
They did.
We're gonna have some good football squads. And then, like you said, Matt, I mean, Belleville, Southfield A&T. Southfield A&T's quarterback, if you mentioned in the prep spotlight or prep pigskin way back when, Isaiah Marshall, that's the quarterback who had one of the smartest plays I've ever seen, where he fumbled it in his own end zone for a touchdown. They get the ball back, he goes down, marches down and scores. He's going to Kansas, and then we don't even need to talk about this, but Bryce Underwood, number one player in junior class, going to announce his commitment on January 6th, I believe, of this year. A lot of people are thinking LSU, maybe Colorado, maybe Michigan. So that's going to be a really fun matchup in Division I. After you guys are all walking out of the stadium, with the title on your head with the crown, heading back to Corunna. But I'll be there watching that one. So yeah, it's going to be a really fun weekend, man. I think there's a lot of really fun matchups for sure.
A lot of good matchups and some really cool stories. I mean, I think Jeff Kimmerly mentioned it last week when we talked to him. And Jared, you're doing all these stories for Bally Sports. Just so many cool stories, that always come out of this weekend.
Yeah, as Jared likes to say, all hands on deck, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be a long weekend for the boys, but it's always well done for sure. All right, guys, let's take another short break and talk a little bit of college and pro football right after this.